This is a video walkthrough of problem 5-1B. Here we will be computing the net pay for Will Barrett and Eric Martin, assuming they are paid biweekly, subject to federal income tax using the wage bracket method in Appendix C, and FICA taxes. They have no other deductions from their pay. Will's deduction, if he chooses to participate in the cafeteria plan, is $75, and Eric's is $250. There is no deduction if they choose not to participate in the cafeteria plan. The cafeteria plan qualifies for Section 125. There are no state income taxes, and you do not need to compute the number of hours. The first thing we're going to do is write down how much the cafeteria plan will cost each of the employees. For Will Barrett, the cafeteria plan is $75, and for Eric Martin, the cafeteria plan is $250. Now we will compute the taxable wages for Will Barrett if there is no cafeteria plan in effect. His gross wages are $1,600, and since he has no deductions, that will be his federal taxable wages as well as his taxable wages for FICA. Filling in the lower half, we have gross wages of $1,600, federal taxable wages of $1,600, and taxable for FICA of $1,600. Looking at the wage bracket method for single biweekly pay, we find $1,600, and we find that that will be on this row. And he has one withholding, so we follow the one withholding down, and that gives us taxes for federal purposes of $150. Social Security is 0.062, so we will multiply his taxable wages by 0.062, and Medicare, we will multiply the taxable wages for FICA by 0.0145. There's no state income tax, so his net pay will be his gross minus his federal, minus his Social Security, minus his Medicare for $1,327.60. Now looking at the option if Will Barrett chooses to participate in the cafeteria plan, his taxable wages for federal will now be reduced by his contribution to the cafeteria plan of $75. For taxable wages for federal of $1,525. Because the cafeteria plan is qualified, it is allowable for a deduction under FICA, so that will also give him taxable wages for FICA of $1,525. His gross earnings have not changed, however now his taxable is $1,525 for federal and $1,525 for FICA. Coming back to our chart, we find $1,525 will fall into this line, and he has one withholding, so now his federal taxes have been reduced to $140. Social Security calculation has not changed. So we will take his taxable for FICA and multiply it by 0.062. And Medicare has not changed. We will take his taxable for FICA times 0.0145, giving him a net pay, which is our gross, minus the cafeteria, minus federal, minus Social Security, minus Medicare, of $1,268.34. We're going to repeat this process for Eric Martin. He has gross earnings of $1,875. Since he has no deductions, those will also be his taxable wages for both federal and FICA. Coming down to the lower half, his gross is $1,875. Taxable for federal of $1,875, and taxable for FICA of $1,875. Scrolling down, To find the married person in the taxable bracket range of $1,875, which will fall into this range. Following down this column for 6 withholding allowances, we find that Eric will have taxable federal taxes of $47. Social Security calculation has not changed. We will take the taxable for FICA times 0.062. Medicare calculation has not changed. We'll take taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. No state withholding. For a net pay of gross, less federal, less Social Security, less Medicare, for $1,684.56. Should Eric participate in the cafeteria plan, this will change his taxable wages for both federal and FICA as it did for Will. So we will now take his gross minus the cafeteria plan for taxable wages for federal of $1,625. For FICA, it is also allowable, so we will have a gross or a taxable wages of $1,625 for FICA. Filling in the lower half, his gross has not changed, but his taxable for federal and taxable for FICA have both been reduced by the cafeteria plan. Scrolling up until we find $1,625, we find it'll be in this row. We can follow the column up for 6 withholding allowances, and we find that his taxes are now reduced to $23. Our calculation for Social Security has not changed. It is taxable wages for FICA times 0.062. And our calculation for Medicare has not changed. It is our taxable wages for FICA times 0.0145. Still no state income taxes, for a net pay of gross minus the cafeteria plan minus federal withholding minus Social Security minus Medicare for taxable wages of $1,477.69.